The Just Baseball Show is cooking on Wednesday, March 4th. Jack McMullen, Peter Apple, Peyton Genis here. As always, we're going to be talking about the most wide open division in Major League Baseball. I think that's the right way to frame this. The American League Central.
The most wide open division. A part of me immediately goes to the American League East because there's four teams that I think you could make a solid argument they all could win the division. But I get what you mean because even the White Sox, who are projected to finish last in this division, I don't think they're going to be as bad as last year. Of course, I'm going to be high on the Twins. I like the Tigers. I like the Royals. I like the Guardians. So I get what you mean.
Yeah, I think that there are three teams that could win the division that would not shock me. And that is why I brand them as the most wide open division in baseball. But if you have other thoughts, by all means, drop them in the comments and tell us. Subscribe on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching us wherever you may be watching or listening, wherever you may be listening. Again, Just Baseball Show, Jack and Peter, who we brought to you by.
BetMGM. And remember, folks, the World Baseball Classic is starting, but if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code JUSTBASEBALL when signing up, and you will get up to a $1,500 new player offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Just download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code JUSTBASEBALL. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. And if that bet loses, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. And the world's top baseball stars go head-to-head in the World Baseball Classic. Join the excitement and make your WBC moment when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your Odds Boost token for any World Baseball Classic bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Again, that's a reminder, code JUSTBASEBALL on BetMGM. I don't know if you saw my tweet, Jack. I'm building out a predictive model for the World Baseball Classic.
Are you doing that with AI like Robert Stock, who, by the way, is unbelievable? He went 3 scoreless with 6 Ks for the Mets in Grapefruit League play, and then goes to Team Israel and goes, I think, 3 2/3 scoreless. He's been ridiculous.
And it's really hard to model out those kinds of players, right? Where there's not a ton of data, but I've pulled basically all the data from StatCast, from Fangraphs, and I have like weighted models for MPB and KBO data. And it's like dating back 3 years using a regression model, using all of the betting odds. And today it's spit out Chinese Taipei over Australia. And it gives me a percentage. I don't know if Podcast P, first of all, Peyton Genis is here. If you can go find that tweet, maybe show a screenshot of it. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm hoping to use it, and I'm hoping to win bets with it.
I've got a follow-up. Actually, I have 4 follow-ups now. So I mentioned Robert Stock. Robert Stock had never written a line of code in his life, but in February, he put out an X thread of his AI pitching database that he created. So I want to ask you, how did you create this? Was it through the use of AI? Was it you were punching away in Excel? Did you hire a kid? Did you pay that kid? What happened here?
So all it cost was downloading Claude and Claude.ai, I don't even remember what it's called anymore.
Anthropology, the store, the apparel store.
Yeah. Anthropology, their clothing.
So you went to Anthropology and you got an AI engine. Got it.
You're getting me off topic right now, but the point is it's using AI, and I told it a bunch of different things. I pulled in all the data I want. I tried to back test it to 2023, and it's still a work in progress. But the main point of it is I'm hoping to have it ready by Friday, and I'm going to be posting it in our Discord every single day. So if you're interested in joining the best baseball group chat in the world, you can find my hopefully finished predictive model by Friday for all of the World Baseball Classic games.
I love that. Okay. And you've been crushing AI so hard that you forgot to get a haircut, or you had no time to get a haircut because you were deep in the AI engines?
First of all, Flow is coming in. Can the people see this?
Well, we're seeing your tweet right now. Appreciate the quick turnaround, Podcast piece. So we got to stick on one thing at a time.
Look at the screenshot. I created a website using it, and it looks pretty good. It
does look sharp. Yeah, I will say the presentation is good, but on Chopped, like half of it is taste, half of it is presentation, and you have to get every ingredient on the plate. It seems like the ingredients are on the plate. The presentation looks good. It's just a matter of taste, and we won't find out really until a couple of games in pool play are through the net.
Correct. Right now, it looks like you go to a 5-star restaurant and you get a beautifully made meal, but you bite into it and you're like, this isn't that good and there's not that much food. That's where the model is at right now.
But let's see if it can taste really good and get a Michelin star and push from there.
Let's get to it by Friday. We'll get there.
Can we see your hair real quick? Because you've already made fun of my shirt today, and I think my shirt looks good. I got it on sale, and your hair you think looks good, and it looks like you got that on sale as well.
Look at this for all those watching on YouTube. This is the moment you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Look at this mess. This is what building models does to you. It doesn't have you leave the screen. Do you see how white my face is? I haven't been outside. I've just been doing this so that you can see through my hair. At least people know I'm working now because this is the sign of a working person.
You totally look like an AI, bro. But we'll get to the AL Central here. We do have one guy to talk about in the American League East, and Podcast P mandated this at the top of the show. And it's really impressive what Vance Honeycutt is doing. Former first-round pick of the Baltimore Orioles out of North Carolina. The concern with Vance Honeycutt is he going to hit enough in pro ball? The answer is sort of, kind of. It's been a mixed bag. Vance Honeycutt has not burst onto the scene in minor league baseball, still has a lot to do before he is a solidified major leaguer. But Vance Honeycutt so far this spring has appeared in, 4 games? He has 5 plate appearances, 1 walk, and 4 bombs. He's 4 for 4 with 4 bombs. And the home run distances, 381, 391, whatever, 410, and then 471. It left his bat at 111 miles an hour. That's a no-doubt tater tot from Vance Honeycutt. I love these breakouts like that. Last year, we were drooling at George Lombard with the Yankees. This year, I guess it's Vance Honeycutt time.
For me, it doesn't feel like a breakout. For me, it feels like he's right on schedule. And I base that off of watching UNC baseball games and watching him play center field and thinking to myself, this is the next Mike Trout. And when the Orioles grabbed him, I think at the middle end of the first round, I thought this is such a steal. He starts his professional career and is maybe the antithesis of Mike Trout. It does not look very good, but he's finally starting to come to play, and it looks so awesome. He's a guy, those guys where you just latch on to college, right? You and I both with Spencer Torkelson, especially with Casey Mize. That's where the Cal Quantrill legend started, was
Stanford,
watching him at Stanford. Vance Honeycutt is another one of those college guys who I fell in love with. So I'm absolutely rooting for him. And it is so cool to see him hit a ball 471 feet.
Everybody's got college baseball crushes, and I'm sure you all have them, and feel free to drop them in whatever comments, again, wherever you may be listening. But the college crushes that I remember having, Mize was an early one, but Carson Fulmer earlier than that at Vandy. I loved watching Carson Fulmer pitch. I loved watching Andrew Benintendi play and win the Golden Spikes at Arkansas. Whole bunch of guys like that, man. It feels like there's one guy every year, and my answer this year is so chalky. Whenever you get to watch Rock Chalowski swing a baseball bat, you just do it. But this kid Gasparino on UCLA is a freak of nature too. So I don't know. There's always some prospect or some college baseball crushes that I have. But first one that I can vividly remember is Carson Fulmer at Vandy.
For Gasparino, at least 10 home runs in his first 11 games. If you've been watching a lot of UCLA baseball, Rock is having a good season so far, but that guy's leading the crowd right now.
Gasparino might be playing his way into the first round. Who knows? We got to ask our college baseball guys, of course, at the College Baseball Show. Peyton also threw us a good Vance Honeycutt comp in the private chat. Jose Siri. That is a really good Vance Honeycutt comp. And again, Jose Siri can get MVP votes in a year if he just decides to put bat on ball.
It just depends how much you like Jose Siri, and that'll tell you how much you like the comp. For me, I hate the comp. For you, you love the comp.
I love it because I love Jose Siri. That's my guy. Him and Adrianza are my 2 original guys on the Just Baseball Show. But it's time to get into the American League Central. You ready?
Let's do it.
So here's what we're going to do. If you like the flow, that's good because we're going to keep on doing it. Give you a lineup rundown, a rotation and bullpen rundown. So we'll go lineup, pitching staff, and then we'll name our X factor. And we each brought our own. We did not talk, so we could have the same guy. Chances are we have different guys. Let's start with the Cleveland Guardians here. And the Cleveland Guardians last year won the division at 88-74. Again, it was that late push, beating the Detroit Tigers. As the Tigers slid at the end of the year, Cleveland ascended, and they ended up taking the American League Central. Stephen Vogt, back-to-back AL Manager of the Year. Their lineup looks like this. They brought Austin Hedges back to be the backup catcher. Bo Naylor is the starting catcher in a prove-it year for him, but he was sort of proving it at the end of last year. The infield right now, you probably have Manzardo DHing and Reese Hoskins, who is a minor league free agent signing, playing first base. You also have David Fry in the fold, who's back from that terrible injury, thank goodness. Middle infield, Brian Rocchio, Gabriel Arias. They're both projects that have played a lot of big league baseball, but they are both out of options. So there's nothing that you can do with them if they are struggling except relegate them to the bench. Best third baseman in baseball. Jose Ramirez is going to be in the hot corner. And then the outfield, likely Stephen Kwan in left. Chase DeLauder, the top prospect in center. And then George Valera in right. You also have Angel Martinez and Jonathan Rodriguez there to help out. This lineup looks very, very similar to what it did last year. I love the gamble of Reese Hoskins, bringing him in. If Hoskins can be a power bat and a run producer, this adds some juice to a lineup that has been clamoring for juice. But there are so many familiar characters here. That's going to be the conversation with Cleveland year in and year out. And I sound negative when I'm saying that. They keep on winning the division, or at least getting close to it. So it's not a negative, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget that this team, I think it was back in 2023, was in the mid 70s when it comes to their win total. And when you look at BetMGM, this team, the Guardians, have the biggest difference between last year's win total and this year's win total. Last year, they won 88 games, winning the division. This year, their win total is 79 and a half. And they are plus 200 in order to make the playoffs. So if you were to wager a $100 bet, you would win an additional $200. Those are the odds for the Guardians to make the playoffs, and they project them to win anywhere from 79 to 80 games. And a big reason why it's really hard to win the division and be in the upper 80s when you rank 29th in OPS as an offense, like they did last year. So we have no doubt that Jose Ramirez is going to be awesome. I personally have no doubt that Stephen Kwan is going to be awesome. Maybe some others on the show don't agree with my rankings. They're wrong, but that's okay. The rest, Kyle Manzardo, how good is he, right? Still a young player. Is he 20 home runs and a 250 batting average, and he's an all right hitter? Is that who you want kind of hitting consistently in the middle of the lineup? So I'm looking at a couple of guys. Chase DeLauder has to have a big year.
Yeah.
Bo Naylor has to have a big year. And Bo Naylor in the second half put up around a 717 OPS compared to a 623 OPS in the first half. I thought he took better at bats, and he's slowly progressing, right? He's 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league for a half decade, but he's still a young player. Like, it's going to be Podcast B, if you could float up their roster resource again for everybody to look at. I'm looking at a lot of the guys who are aged 24 to 26 years old. Brian Rocchio, Bo Naylor, Gabriel Arias, Chase DeLauder, Kyle Manzardo, George Valera. These guys have to take step forward if the Guardians want to win the division. It can't just be guard ball magic getting them to the top of the American League Central with how much other teams in the division have improved.
Yeah, and how many guys are actually going to take a step in a positive direction? If all of them do, and we have seen the Guardians have years like that, where all the young guys make drastic improvements and they get even better from a team that won 88 games a year ago. But if one guy makes an improvement or two guys make an improvement, is that enough with the tiny margin for error that you have given yourself with the lack of veteran presence in that lineup? But again, and he's not my X factor, Reese Hoskins is a huge add. He's not my X factor because I feel like there's another guy in that lineup that could be more impactful and swing a couple of different ways. Hoskins is just a guy that, like, I felt like that was the best minor league free agent signing we saw this offseason. Point blank, period. What that guy can do as a net positive to that lineup is a huge thing. So we'll see. They pitch. They always pitch. And that staff looks pretty darn similar. Tristan McKenzie was in the fold last year. Shane Bieber was in the fold last year, trying to work his way back from Tommy John surgery. They're both gone. Different kind of cast of characters, but again, they have all been in the organization. They are all pretty much homegrown talents. Gavin Williams is going to front this rotation. Gavin Williams was lucky last year by the peripherals, but if you watch Gavin Williams throw a Major League Baseball, you know that guy is special. That rotation is Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, who's looking for a bit of a bounce-back season. Slade Ciccone was a breakout of sorts last year. Logan Allen had a nice bounce back, and then Joey Cantillo was a revelation in the rotation. He's always been an okay reliever, but that guy looks like a bona fide starter moving forward. And the bullpen, rinse and repeat. Cade Smith is the closer now with no Emmanuel Clase. That is a huge omission. But Hunter Gaddis is back. Eric Sabrowski looks like the real deal. Heron always looks like the real deal. They bring Sean Armstrong in. They bring Connor Brogdon in, and they take Peyton Pallette in the Rule 5 from the Chicago White Sox, not to mention Matt Festa and more waiting in the minor leagues. You've got Andrew Walters down there as well, among others. So this pitching staff is not an area of concern until you look at the 3, 4, and 5 spot in the rotation. But again, I'm kind of done doubting the Cleveland Guardians. They spawn capable 4 starters every single year.
Absolutely. And I want to start at the top of the rotation with Gavin Williams. And you said it already, where when you watch Gavin Williams, it doesn't look like a 4.30 expected ERA. It looks like the 3.06 ERA. And I totally agree with you. When I watch that big body get up on the mound and throw 97-mile-an-hour heaters with 4 different other offerings to go to, I think to myself, this guy has the stuff and the bravado to be a frontline ace. And he pitched like it. Pitched to a 3.06 ERA. But if we're just looking at the underlying data, they think kind of a fluke. Like he's probably closer to Slade Ciccone than he is a top-line pitcher. And a big reason why is his four-seamer, while it's 97 and it's got a ton of life, average exit velocity of 94 miles an hour. But his curveball and his sweeper, opponents hit 116 against his curveball, opponents hit 181 against his sweeper. He has a cutter, he has a sinker, so he has different variations of that fastball. He can't walk people at a 12% rate. And can he limit hard contact? If he can do both of those things, I think he can replicate the success. Because if we're just looking at last year, yes, he got lucky. But does that mean he can't improve going into 2026? I absolutely think he can. So I'm with you. I'm not buying into those underlying ERA predictors from last year. I think he's really, really solid, and I'm really excited to see him throw.
You're telling me if he were going to focus on one pitch this offseason to improve the shape of, it would be the heater? I trust this guy going into an offseason to work on fastball shape and get it a little bit better, if that is the one thing that he really needs to work on. Obviously, it's going to be a touch and feel with the secondaries, but the fastball, man, that's a simple offseason.
But again, he has 3 variations of the fastball. So maybe it's not a result of fixing the four-seam fastball. It's just throwing his cutter more, throwing his sinker more. So when you see the four-seam, you're not as ready for that type of movement, and it gets better results. So there are ways for Gavin Williams to get better. That's what I see in the data versus just looking at his xFIP at 4.2 or something like that.
The bullpen with no Clase, like, it stinks. Obviously, for Guardians fans, I feel for them. They don't have the best closer in baseball anymore because he shot himself in the foot. He made terrible decisions time and time again, and Clase is no longer a piece of the Cleveland Guardians. He will probably never throw another pitch in Major League Baseball. Cade Smith is more than ready to take over as the closer for the Cleveland Guardians. I think we had him as the number 3 reliever in baseball going into 26. That fastball is unbelievable, and the 2-pitch combo he has is unbelievable. And they figure out ways with those setup guys, man. I know that there have been different characters over the last couple of years, but if you're not tapped into Eric Sabrowski, boy, are you in for a treat when you see his first outing. Heron, too. I think they're going to really like Peyton Pallette and Brogdon, too. Brogdon's always had stuff. It's just a matter of harnessing it with Philly or others.
Yeah, it's likely going to be a top 5 bullpen, just like it was last year. I mean, they're missing a couple of pieces, but one thing that the Guardians are really, really good at doing is spawning new arms. And Cade Smith is a perfect example. We posted on our X page, Podcast PM, curious if you have that graphic, where it was basically described as Cade Smith, the difference between his fielding independent pitching, his FIP, over the last 2 years. He's number 1. Mason Miller is number 2. The difference between him and Mason Miller is the same between Mason Miller as the 11th ranked reliever. Wow. That's how good Cade Smith has been. And another reason why I wanted to reiterate that is when we put out our reliever rankings, the number 1 comment was, Cade Smith? What are you guys talking about? And my response to those people is, no, what are you talking about? Have you seen this guy throw fuzzballs? He throws it wherever he wants. He's good off-speed pitches, breaking balls to work around with. This guy goes after hitters. And yes, it's not 100, but it's got crazy life, and command within the zone is impeccable. Cade Smith is one of the best relievers in baseball, and Hunter Gaddis is probably in the top 25. So yeah, here's the stat. Cade Smith is the only reliever in MLB with a FIP below 2.00 over the last 2 seasons. The gap in FIP between Smith and number 2 Mason Miller is as big as the gap between Mason Miller and Aaron Ashby.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So when you have him in the closer role, you have Gaddis, and you still have a bunch of other guys with exciting stuff. It's likely going to be a top 5 bullpen again, but they'll need to have a top 5 bullpen because this rotation, I'm still not sold on. And it's not because of Gavin, and it's not because of Bybee. It's because everybody working down after.
Right.
I'm not sold on any of them yet. Could they be good? Of course. Am I sold? Yep. I need to see more.
And that is certainly the point. Last thing on Cade Smith. Good comment here from Uncle Ted. Didn't he blow a lot of saves? He was 16 for 22 in the save department last year. Sample's going to be a heck of a lot larger this year. He was thrusted into that situation. I don't think it was a matter of him not being ready, and that's why he blew 6 saves. But I will say the sample is very, very small with him. And when you get a full season sample, that is your opportunity to judge Cade Smith, the closer, instead of Cade Smith, the setup guy that was forced into closing because the other guy was throwing pitches in the dirt on purpose.
Yes, he was.
X Factor. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
Go ahead.
So I go back to the lineup, and this guy has as much boomer bust potential as I think any young bat in baseball, particularly what he can do to the lineup. And it's Chase DeLauter. When DeLauter has been on the field, Chase DeLauter has been one of the best hitters in all of minor league baseball. I hate watching him swing. I do. The swing is ugly.
Oh, no, I can't believe it. I love it. It reminds me of Stanton. The way he swings. Podcast Pete, keep doing those highlights again. Because when I watch him hit home runs like this, it's the same as when I'm listening to a really good song for the first time and you give that stink face. You're just like, ooh. Yeah. You know, the little, ooh. That's what that feels like. And it feels the same when I watch Stanton hit home runs. It just doesn't look like it's possible. It's this really flat, powerful swing that hits laser beams.
It looks so uncomfortable, and it looks like if I tried to do that, the ball may go 20 feet if I square it up, but somehow he's incredibly strong, and he has the bat speed to make it work, and he has some swings that make me want to vomit that produce home runs and tape measure shots. So it doesn't have to make sense to me. When DeLauter has been on the field, he has been great in the minor leagues. In 2023, he had a 160 WRC plus in 57 games. In 24, he had a 133 WRC plus in 39 games. Yeah. In 25 in minor league baseball, he had a 128 WRC plus in 42 games. He doesn't play games. If he plays 140 games for the Cleveland Guardians, and he should be the opening day center fielder, this guy can be a well above average offensive player while playing a good, decent to good center field. So DeLauter, for me, is such a ceiling raiser for the Cleveland Guardian lineup.
Especially in the lineup. Like, the lineup needs guys like Chase DeLauter to break out if they want to win this division again, with how good the Tigers have gotten, with how good the Royals have gotten. I personally am still a Twins believer, and the White Sox get better by the day as well. So they need guys like him. They need guys like George Valera. They need Bo Naylor to continue to take a step forward. They need Brian Rocchio to take steps forward. So all of these guys, but DeLauter has the most upside, and that's, again, why he's my X factor as well. Podcast people, what's up?
You got something on DeLauter? You got something on somebody else?
Someone else. So if you want to say your piece on CDL, continue.
No, I'm good on that. Peter, you were nodding. Is DeLauter your X factor as well?
Mine as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Peyton, what you got?
I wanted to bring up something about Bo Naylor, because I think, I don't know if we have Guardians fans in the chat, but I'm sure they would agree with this statement, is that 2025 Bo Naylor had the best season amongst players who hit 195 with a 661 OPS. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because, let me read you his average splits by leverage. You ready? Yeah. Low leverage, Bo Naylor hit 141. Medium leverage, Bo Naylor hit 171. High leverage, Bo Naylor hit 357 with an 1,000 OPS.
Huh.
He did not have a good year. He did not have a good year. Like, it was pretty ugly for the most of it. I mean, and then he had a crazy September where he had like a 150 OPS plus and like had more RBI than like his last three months combined.
So Naylor's September, 19 games, he hit 290 with 10 extra base hits and an 872 OPS. So far and away his best month.
And it's just funny because he was a guy who was clutch the whole year for them, but then he really turned it on when the Guardians had that crazy turnaround. So his 2025 really is a story of I don't think the stats really do him justice of how important he was to that team.
And that is why strong Septembers matter for narratives going into the next year. We're sitting here talking about Naylor because he left a positive taste in everybody's mouth in the month of September. Going into the wild card series. Yeah.
One more thing on Bo Naylor, because this threw me off. Bo Naylor's full name is Noah Gibson James Washington Naylor.
I love that.
So I have no idea. So I was like, Bo? You have 6 names and you chose Bo?
But it's
allegedly because Josh Naylor had a speech impediment when he was younger and could only call him Boa. So Bo stuck.
Cool. I think Boa Naylor would actually be more sick than Bo Naylor, but
I agree.
Bo works as well.
Yeah.
James Washington Naylor, shout out Oklahoma State receiver from the late 2010s.
James Washington, that sounds right. When
Steelers,
I think Oklahoma
Mason
State
Rudolph.
That sounds right. When I think Oklahoma State receivers, I think Justin Blackman. Right, Brandon Whedon throwing to Justin Blackman. You remember that? Peter's just nodding his head. He has no idea.
We're officially off track.
That's okay. You know what? Let's get back on track.
Officially got off the rails. Correct. Let's go.
All right, we're on the rails again here. We're going to get to the Tigers in a minute, but whoosh. The Detroit Tigers are next on our list. The Tigers coughed up the division late last year. The Detroit Tigers finished a game back of the Cleveland Guardians. They were 87-75, but Framber Valdez is a Detroit Tiger now, and Tarek Skubal is a very rich Detroit Tiger. Now, looking at the Detroit Tiger lineup, very similar to what it was last year, and a huge piece of that was Gleyber Torres accepting the qualifying offer at just over $22 million for this year. Dylan Dingler had a breakout year. Dingler is the catcher. Jake Rogers is his backup. Maybe Tarek Skubal's personal catcher. Who knows? Dingler has solidified himself as one of the best in the game. The opening day infield projected: Spencer Torkelson at first, Torres at second, Zach McKinstry at short. More on that in a minute. Colt Keith at third, and the outfield will probably look like Riley Green, Parker Meadows, and Wenzel Perez, with Kerry Carpenter serving as the DH. Javier Baez is going to get a lot of time off the bench. Jahmai Jones will likely be a pinch hitter, and then Matt Vierling will get some time off the bench as well. I only pause on McKinstry playing short, not because McKinstry is not deserving of pretty much everyday reps, but because I think it makes a heck of a lot more sense to use McKinstry as a utility guy where he can bounce around and play 5 out of 6 games a week, and have Kevin McGonigal play shortstop on opening day. That's a huge piece of this for me. I don't think roster resource and the veteran-laden Tiger lineup is doing itself justice without the number 2 prospect in all of baseball in it.
Yeah, the infield is really, really interesting to me. And I brought this up a few times because I'm also interested in the defense, because you got Colt Keith moving over from second to third, and Colt Keith, -8 defensive runs saved at second base. Not very good. We move over to third. He played 254 innings at that position last year and was an average defender, at least by the metrics.
Yeah.
And then is it McGonigal at short? Is that where we're going here? Because whenever you or Aram talk about McGonigal, the defense is never mentioned. It's just the bat. And then when I follow up about the defense, both of you are kind of like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm thinking to myself, do we want that guy playing defense with a pitcher like Framber Valdez, who is one of the league leaders in ground balls to the left side of the infield? Like, that's my only concern, because when I look at the lineup, I think all these guys are going to hit. Like, On BetMGM, they are the odds-on leader to win the division, and they have an 85.5 win total. An 85.5 might seem a little short, but it's one of the higher win totals in baseball, right? The Dodgers are at like 102.5. Next best is the Mariners or the Yankees at 90.5. So they are considered one of the best teams in baseball. This is a much more straightforward conversation on the team, but sticking on the offense, that is my most interesting concern.
Yeah. I hear you on that entirely. Don't get it twisted. But what I will say, and I defer to Aram on this, he said he can absolutely get by at shortstop, McGonigal. So
But what does
I
that mean? Absolutely get by. You know
think
what I
he
mean?
can be fine. Aram thinks that he
Okay.
can be an average defensive shortstop, and I think that's totally acceptable, to
Yeah,
be
that's
totally
okay.
honest with you.
I'll
I
take
think
it.
that's fine, especially when a guy is a threat to hit 300 with 20 to 25 jacks.
Have you been
He
seeing
is
him in spring training? Everyone's talking about Connor Griffin. Kevin McGonigal has been the most impressive top
flawless.
prospect by far.
He looks flawless right now, and we had a lengthy conversation about McGonigal on the Monday show, but I just I don't know, man. I am willing to sacrifice really good defense at shortstop for okay defense at shortstop, and maybe even pairing it with okay defense at third base and just having a left side that is fine for a possibly generational bat coming up. And this is really fun to watch. So I don't know, man. Offense plays, offense gets you paid. Offense, it seems like, wins a heck of a lot of games in the regular season, and I'm willing to see McGonigal take some lumps defensively if there even are lumps to take defensively. Again, Aram thinks that it's more than passable at shortstop. So I'm on board with that.
And that's good enough for me because when I look at, who's going to be potentially DHing, it might be Kerry Carpenter, or Kerry Carpenter might be playing a lot of right field, which kind of opens up the DH spot. So if McGonigal's defense is not good enough to start over a McKinstry, over a Keith, or something like that, the DH is available. Obviously, you wouldn't want to pigeonhole your rookie in a DH spot like that, but they also have the backup plan with Zach McKinstry. So it's not as if the offense hangs on defense from Kevin McGonigal.
Yep.
That's the point. And that's, again, why I like the Tigers a lot. But I go back to my only question is that, because I love Riley Green. I love Spencer Torkelson. I've always been a big fan of Parker Meadows. I think he bounces back this year, and I think it's one of the better offenses in baseball. My only concern, left side of the infield defense. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
So Kevin McGonigal, by the way, on Tuesday against the Dominican Republic, 3 for 3 with a 3-run homer, if I'm not mistaken, and started at shortstop in both games in Santo Domingo against the Dominican Republic national team. So if that tells you what you got to know, I'm not sure. We shall see. McKinstry was playing second. Gleyber Torres was not playing because Torres is with Venezuela for the World Baseball Classic. But if McGonigal's getting reps against the DR on national television in spring training, that could mean a little something, something. This rotation and this bullpen are enticing. Obviously starts with Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal won his arbitration case. He's making $32 million. 55 pitches against Great Britain later. Tarek Skubal will be right back in Lakeland pitching for the Detroit Tigers. Skubal and Framber Valdez form the 1-2 there in the rotation. You've got Skubal, you've got Framber, and you've got Jack Flaherty as well, kind of fronting that rotation. Justin Verlander and Casey Mize are filling out the back end, and I love the Verlander inclusion in this, bringing Justin Verlander back on what is surely his final year of Major League Baseball. And the bullpen, man, Kenley Jansen is a fascinating add. Will Vest, Kyle Finnegan there as well. They bring in Finnegan at last year's deadline. They bring in Drew Anderson this year from the KBO. Tyler Holton is back, and then Hannafy and the Swiss Army knives, Brant Herter and Kaider Montero. Where are your concerns, if there are any, with the pitching staff for Detroit?
There really aren't that many concerns. Obviously, Skubal's the best in the world. I really love the addition of Framber Valdez because while you go lefty-lefty to start your rotation and you want to give teams a different look, these two lefties couldn't be any more different. You have Tarek Skubal living at the top of the zone with 100 miles an hour and that 80 grade changeup, but you have Framber Valdez living at the bottom of the zone with his sinker that's diving away from righties and his big breaking ball that's coming in on righties. So you have a completely different look from your lefties. And Flaherty, it's almost, how do you feel about Flaherty expectation-wise? If Jack Flaherty is your 2, if Jack Flaherty is your 3, I can start to be okay with it. And then you have Verlander and you have Mize, and Verlander is going to be great for that locker room. I don't have any worries about this starting rotation because I think Casey Mize could also continue to take steps in order to be the eventual 3 in this rotation. I think when you look at talent, I'd probably rather take Mize over Flaherty. Flaherty, I think, is the safer arm at this point. But I think that those two could be competing for the 3 and 4 spot. And then you have Verlander, who's still pitching okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no Jackson Jobe, right? Jobe could be back at the end of the year, maybe. He had Tommy John surgery in June of last year. No Reese Olson, stinks. I think we were expecting Olson to be there, but Verlander was a late signing after Olson went down. We also just had, Troy Milton go down with an elbow strain for Troy Milton. That happened in February. So Milton out of the equation, it seems like in the immediate future, and then for the entirety of the year, no Jackson Jobe and no Reese Olson. But you've got other guys waiting in the wings, like a Ty Madden as well. So there is some rotational depth there, but I'm with you, man. That 5 is really intriguing, and I do think it's a big deal pushing Flaherty down from the 2 to the 3 and adding a Framber Valdez in that ballpark. That's going to be awesome.
I said,
Jansen,
real quick before we move to the bullpen, I said at the beginning of the offseason, like the Tigers need a 2-starter really badly. And this was even before Reese Olson went down, because even with Reese Olson still in the rotation, like these are good arms. But I compare Reese Olson to Clark Schmidt a lot of the Yankees. Like when they're on the mound, they're pitching to a low 3 ERA, but they're not on the mound frequently enough for you to really include them into your calculus about this team, right? So Reese Olson going down certainly hurts, but the Tigers haven't gotten a lot of innings out of Reese Olson. So he could have elevated their ceiling, but I don't think he hurts their floor that much by missing. So they needed a guy who is as good of a guarantee to throw 180 to 200 innings at a mid-3s. And they got exactly that with Framber. And that's why I think it was such a good fit for him. It's one of my favorite additions of the offseason.
They needed a 2. They got the best 2 on the market in Framber Valdez. I don't really have much on the bullpen because, again, it's very similar to what we've seen in 24 in the chaos menu AJ Hinch loves and 25. But Kenley Jansen and Justin Verlander in the same pitching staff makes my heart happy. That's all I've got.
Yeah, it makes my heart happy too. I think Will Vest is one of the more underrated relievers in Major League Baseball. Past 3 seasons has been pitching to a 3 ERA, throws 100 miles an hour. He's got a real live arm, and he's just been a really good reliever for a while and throws a ton of innings in that bullpen. They finished 17th in ERA last year, and I think it's probably an average bullpen once again. There's not a ton of top-end talent. There's some good relievers. It's not super deep. I like Kiter Montero as their swingman. Overall, I think it's a fine bullpen. I think it's a really good rotation, and I think it's a really strong lineup, and this team should be the odds-on favorite to win the Central.
X Factor. I went first with DeLauder, so I stole your Cleveland X Factor. You go.
So I almost feel like this is a bad choice, but I do still think he's really, really important. And I think top end versus bottom end, there's a big discrepancy there, which makes me think he's an X Factor. Kerry Carpenter. Kerry Carpenter in 2024 played 87 games and put up a 158 WRC plus. So we ranked him really high on our DH rankings going into 2025. Why wouldn't we? The numbers on the screen reflected what we were watching on the field. It was a smooth swing, getting to power so easily. We saw him in the playoffs. This guy was box office, working with the same hitting coach as Aaron Judge, and you see similarities in their swing. And we all got giddy. Who is this guy? In his first couple of seasons, albeit in short samples, 120 WRC plus, 125. Then he jumps to 158.
Yep.
Last year, 115. Big disappointment for me personally, just because of how high I was going into 2026. So the reason I call him an X Factor is we've seen top-end MLB production on offense. We've seen 60% better than league average, and we've seen 15% better than league average in a larger sample. Who is he? Is he somewhere in the middle? Is he just what he was last year? Or do we get a bounce back closer to 2024? I don't know, but I know how good the Tigers offense looks when Kerry Carpenter is firing on all cylinders.
I dig that shout. I just assume Carpenter to be a low to mid 800s OPS at this point. So I think that the variation in my head is a little bit less drastic than how his season can vary in your head, which is totally a fair shout. And I dig that. For me, my X factor was somebody that I'm still trying to figure out. And he signed an extension, not a lucrative one, but he's on an extension. And he signed this extension before he even made his major league debut. If McGonigal's playing short or if McKinstry's playing short, somebody's going to have to play third base. And you're paying this guy to be on the roster and hit. And I don't know what to expect from Colt Keith at this point. And I would love for this to be the breakout year for Colt Keith. He hasn't had one yet. He was one of the best pure hitters, if not the best pure hitter in the minor leagues, especially in the upper levels when he did sign this extension. And then he's on the opening day roster for the Detroit Tigers in 24, and he's a one-win player. He had a sub 700 OPS, and we thought this guy was going to roll out of bed and hit the baseball. In year two, he was a 1.5 win player. He's played a lot of games. He played 150 games in 2024. He played about 135, 140 games in 25. The OPS looked better. The batting average was pretty much the same, but the slug was a little bit higher, even though his home run total was the same. He had 13 bombs in each year. He had a 746 OPS this past year. That's a 107 OPS plus. But I'm just trying to figure out who Colt Keith is, because I thought this guy could be a 120 OPS plus third baseman. And he hasn't proven that yet. He's a career 715 OPS through his first 2 seasons. This is a huge breakout for me, because if he's a 700, 710 OPS guy again, you start to look at him as a slightly pricey bench bat that can place him first, place him second, place him third. This is the year where he proves that he's either a really good bulk platoon bat for AJ Hinch or an everyday bat for AJ Hinch.
Yeah, he's a fascinating case because, again, the Tigers felt confident to give him a pre-arb extension. That's how good they felt about the bat. I know Aram was high on the bat. I know you've been high on the bat. And Aram would show me videos in the minor leagues. For my limited footage, I'd be high on the bat because it was easy. It was quick. Like, you're like, yep, that guy's going to hit. And I'm sure the Tigers thought the same. Projections next year have him around a 760 OPS. If Colt Keith puts up a 760 OPS next year, are you disappointed?
No, I'm happy with that because he hasn't done it yet. It was a 745 OPS last year.
Yeah, so it's a marginal improvement, but it's not and again, these are projections. Of course he could break out. But if he followed those projections and he's like a 1.9 win player and a 760 OPS with 17 home runs, I actually question for Tigers fans, or if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube later, do you feel good about that? Like, is that good enough for you? If he's approaching 20 home runs, he's playing okay defense, and it's a 760 OPS bat, do we feel good about that? Because at the end of the day, his pre-arb extension is 6 years, 29 million. Yeah. So it's not like you're paying a pretty penny anyway. Because if he does that, he's worth the money. You'd prefer he's worth more than that money. And I think that's the point you're making. And you see it in him.
Yes, I certainly do. And I just feel like this is the big step he takes. Because last year was a step he took in a positive direction, but it wasn't big enough for me. I'm impatient. I know that. But I also know that fan bases are impatient, especially when you're trying to win a division and trying to win some games and get to a CS and maybe get to a World Series in a wide open American League. They played Seattle really tight in the DS. And if they have a really good Colt Keith in 2026, why can't they beat him? Why can't they go to the CS and take on Toronto? Why can't they beat the big bad Yanks? There's no reason why they couldn't if Colt Keith and Kevin McGonigal create a left side of the infield that's super duper exciting. So that's what we've got on the Detroit Tigers. Let's push to the team that finished third in the American League Central last year. It was the Kansas City Royals, and it felt like as positive a third-place finish as a third-place finish can feel in Major League Baseball. They were 82-80, 2 games over 500. They finished 6 games back of the Cleveland Guardians in the division. Their lineup looks really good right now, man, and they have a great catcher DH combination. Salvador Perez and Carter Jensen, the standout rookie and one of the favorites for American League Rookie of the Year. They will likely split catching duties and also do some DHing. Vinny Pasquantino had a hell of a year in 25. He's back there as a full-time first baseman in 2026. Playing second base for them, Jonathan India, Michael Massey. We'll see what happens, but you've got the best shortstop in baseball over there in Bobby Witt Jr. Michael Garcia just signed an extension this offseason. He's at the hot corner. And the outfield projected on opening day, Isaac Collins, Jack Caglione in right, and center field, Kyle Isbell, maybe Lane Thomas forming a platoon. Starling Marte they also just brought in. And Tyler Tolbert is a pinch runner / defensive replacement that is a freak on the bases and can fill in really whenever they need him to. The lineup is really intriguing. I have 2 big questions, and it's second base and center field. I don't know if India and Massey is good enough of a combination at second base to win a division. I also don't know if Isbell and Lane Thomas is good enough to win a division. But I like the outfield irons in the fire they have. I mentioned this earlier this week. Isaac Collins in the fold is a humongous add for Kansas City because they have been scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find outfield help over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's definitely better. I have a lot more questions than you do. They're not necessarily bad. I just have a question about every single hitter in that lineup outside of Bobby Witt Jr. Pull it up again, Podcast P, if you could. I want to go through it with everybody. So, Michael Garcia at third. I'm of the belief that he's an easy top 10 third baseman, took massive strides last year. He's done it once. Does he do that again? Is he just a slightly diminished version? Does he drop even closer to what he was back in 2024? Hard to know. Vinny Pasquantino, does he take a big step forward? We keep kind of saying it every season, and he takes marginal steps. Is now at 28 years old a big step? Or is this just what Vinny P is? Is Salvador Perez going to continue to hit for a lot of power? Or at 36 years old, do we start to see a downturn? Jack Caglione has all the talent in the world. When he came up last year, it was abysmal, at least from a production standpoint. Jonathan India, I have no idea who you are, dude. Carter Jensen smacks baseballs around the ballpark. But he's a rookie. He's 22 years old. What do we get? Isaac Collins broke out as a 28-year-old? Who is he? And Kyle Isbell, it's funny. I feel like I know who he is. He's like a pretty good defender and he doesn't hit much. I have no idea what this team is going to do. When I ran my win total projections, and I'm excited to talk about this in our win totals podcast episode, which is going to be much more at length. My numbers are low on the Royals. Like, it's telling me to bet they're under 82.5. I hate it, though. Like, I'm like, yep, my numbers say it. I agree with my numbers. This one, I have no idea. I don't know what to do with the Royals because a part of me could say that team could win the division. And a part of me is like, they're going to win 74 games. I know it sounds crazy, but I think when you start to break it down, and we can do the same with the rotation. And again, I want all Royals fans listening. This doesn't mean I'm being negative. It means I'm having a hard time projecting this team compared to other teams. Like, I just don't have a good grasp here because there's so many different outcomes for so many players on the team. Cags could hit 40 jacks this year.
Yeah.
And just break out and be this unbelievable hitter. Michael Garcia could get better. Vinny Pasquantino can make that huge leap we were talking about. Salvador Perez could continue to smush Father Time away and hit 30 homers again. Carter Jensen could break out. Or none of them do. Or some of them do. I have no idea.
Here's what I'll say. Moving the fences in might matter here. So it's not like all of my questions go away, but this place could be very bandbox-ish in Kansas City, and everybody could have good years. So a lot of my questions have to do with the pitching staff here. With the lineup, I just see a 2K team. I see a team that would be really fun to play as an MLB The Show with their lineup. And that is intrigue. That is Cag's presence. But I'm with you. There are so many different ways it could crumble. So if you just told me that your X factor for the Kansas City Royals was the entire lineup outside of Bobby Witt, I'd be okay with that answer. It's not fun for the sake of this. We should highlight an individual, but I would understand that answer because there are a whole bunch of ways that things could flip and switch for Kansas City outside of young Alex Rodriguez and Bobby Witt.
And I think it's actually exciting to be a fan because I think the range of outcomes, there are worlds where the Royals win 94 games. There are.
Yeah.
If this rotation,
I don't think 94, I think 90.
I think so. This team has so much upside. So much upside. Cags, Jensen, Vinny P, Bobby Witt, Michael Garcia. Like, you go down the lineup. What if Jonathan India bounces back fully? Like, there's so much. Jonathan India could be a great player. I mean, Carter Jensen, Cags, this could be such a good lineup. Or none of them take jumps and they win 76 games. I don't know. I'm so excited to watch, though. Like, this is a team opening day. I'm going to be watching a lot of Royals baseball because I'm fascinated to find out.
And I'm fascinated with their pitching staff, to be totally honest with you. And they've got two guys working their way back from injuries in 2025. Now, granted, they came back at different times. Like, Bubic was an all-star, and then he got hurt. Reagan's, it was just a weird year all around. But Noah Cameron was a breakout. There were so many pieces in this rotation that were interesting for a whole bunch of different reasons. But here's a look at their pitching staff as it stands right now. Cole Reagan's is projected to probably be their opening day starter. You also have Michael Wacha, who they brought back, I think, extension this offseason, right?
Also,
Seth Lugo.
Shout out Team USA, Michael Wacha.
Yes. Seth Lugo at Team Puerto Rico. He signed an extension, back half of last year, and he was unavailable at the trade deadline. And then you've got Bubic and Noah Cameron. 3 lefties in the starting rotation is actually really fun. Bailey Falter could be a 4th lefty in that starting rotation. Again, it was Falter for Callan Moss and one other guy, I think, going from the Pirates to the Royals. Carlos Estevez will be their closer. Lucas Urseg is pretty much a closer masquerading as a setup guy. Matt Strahm, they get in a trade from Philadelphia this offseason. John Schreiber is there as well. Nick Mears they got along with Isaac Collins in that trade with the Brewers. Daniel Lynch is a fascinating name in that bullpen. He makes his way from the rotation to the pen, and we'll see if Daniel Lynch can hold that tick up and also just the stuff getting a little bit better. But I think both of our X factors lie in this rotation. Am I incorrect in saying that?
You are correct in saying that. Is it crazy to also say that the Royals might have the best bullpen in this division? The Guardians will likely have a better bullpen, but I think the Royals bullpen is much closer to them than I think a lot of people realize. This Royals bullpen finished 7th in ERA last year, and there ain't a name down that list who I don't trust.
No, and they add Strahm. So that's a team that finished 7th in ERA, 7th in bullpen ERA, and they add a guy that has been one of the more reliable left-handed relievers in the game over the last couple of years.
And I'm glad this comment, first of all, shout out our YouTube. Everybody watching, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button if you're enjoying. Urseg is good AF. I agree. Urseg is good AF. Lucas Urseg is dynamite when he's healthy. And again, it's just about this bullpen staying healthy. I look at the team and I have the most faith in the bullpen, weirdly. But the offense, Royals fans should hope it's the worst unit on the field. Because if it is, they're so good.
Yes.
They could be so good. But moving back to the rotation, I don't know if you saw, I'm laughing. Because I don't know how to project their rotation either.
And Reagan, it starts at the top. It's
coming back. Starts at the top. Should we just get into our X factor?
Yeah, you go. Reagan? I mean, it starts at the tippy top, and I know this guy's your X factor.
Cole Reagan's is my X factor because I ranked him as the 10th best starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, while some others didn't have him ranked. Why did they not have him ranked? He's coming back from rotator cuff stuff. Like, his shoulder got all jacked up. He's had surgeries. He's a double Tommy John guy. But man, when he throws, I fall in love. Because again, it's a lefty who's 98 at the top. It's a dynamite changeup. It's a dynamite bullet slider. A bullet slider. This guy could win a Cy Young when he's right. Will he be right? Michael Wacha is the only guy I feel good about. Because you keep moving down the line. Bubic hasn't stayed healthy. When he has, it's been unbelievable. But he hasn't thrown a full season. So we can't elevate him to one of the better pitchers in baseball. Can he? What is Noah Cameron? We have no idea. Seth Lugo, even at his older age, like, he was a guy who I was like, the Royals should not extend him. I think they should deal him at the deadline. And then he started to falter because the stuff is diminishing, understandably, at 36, 37 years old.
Yeah.
What is he over 170 innings last year? Is he able to do it? I have no idea. So you continue through the lineup. I could see top end. I could see low end. In the rotation, I could see top end. I could see low end. I'm watching every Royals game in 2026. I can't wait because I have no idea what to think about this team.
I chose the other rotator cuff guy. Reagan's had a more, I think, severe rotator cuff issue, but Reagan's was stop and starty last year. Bubic was amazing until he was just off the field. Chris Bubic was an all-star. He threw 110 innings before the break. I think it was 108 and 2/3. Yeah, 108 and 2/3 at a 2. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze. No, we're good. 108 and 2/3 innings at a 2.48 ERA going into the All-Star break. He was a joy to talk to at the All-Star break, by the way. We did a Best Sounds from All-Star Media Day podcast on this RSS feed, and he was awesome with that. But he was nails before it, and then he makes 2 starts and throws 7 2/3 innings after the break, and he walked 5 in 7 2/3. So, I wonder how this guy's shoulder feels after a rotator cuff issue. Reagan's and Bubic were the 2 easiest X Factor picks because they are all-stars when they're good, but they were also hurt last year with shoulder things, and I love that we picked different ones instead of, well, we had the same guy, but Bubic also, or Reagan's also.
I am praying Reagan's is right because when Reagan's is right, it's Scooble, it's Crochet, and then I'm hearing combos in the American League. Yep, Brian Wu, Hunter Brown, Max Fried. I know them all. That's how good this guy can be. It's just
I think Wu, I think Wu and Brown have separated from Reagan's at this point, but it's fun to talk.
No, I agree. Yeah. Right now, I could understand that. But what they could be, I think Reagan's has more top-end talent than they do.
I hear you. All right, we're going to get to Peter Apple's favorite team in a minute. Let's whoosh one more time. The Minnesota Twins finished 4th in the American League Central last year. The Minnesota Twins were one of the disappointments of the MLB season. They did a fire sale at last year's deadline. And then they didn't commit to a rebuild this offseason, which was really weird. But Minnesota has some interesting pieces. And I know Peter Apple really likes them. I don't think they're going to be that good in 2026, but Peter can try and convince me otherwise. Again, they were 70 and 92 last year. They were 18 games back at Cleveland when it was all said and done. Here's how they're going to line up. Ryan Jeffers is going to be their catcher on opening day. Victor Caratini might get some DH reps, but Caratini will serve as his backup catcher. At first base, Josh Bell, who they signed on a free agent deal. Luke Keyshaw, the standout rookie, he'll play second. Brooks Lee will play short. And assuming a good bill of health, Royce Lewis will be at the hot corner. The outfield looks like it's going to be Buxton in center, Larnach in left, and right field, the king of the 118-mile-an-hour EV, followed by 3 punch-outs, Matt Wallner. Their bench is also intriguing. Cody Clemens is there. Ryan Kreidler is there as a middle infield option. Austin Martin is a super utility guy. And then James Outman's out of options. Does he make it out of spring training? Let's find out together, folks. They have 2 fascinating pieces waiting in the wings in Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez. Walker Jenkins has already hit the shelf in spring training. I saw he was dealing with something. I think it was like lower body. I'll confirm as you talk, though. Those 2 are fascinating pieces to have in this conversation, and if they can join a Buxton in the outfield or give Buxton a couple days off his feet to DH, that would be darn cool for the Minnesota Twins, and this lineup gets a little bit better than I think a lot of people would anticipate.
Exactly. And it's not just me liking the Twins. Any diehard baseball fan who has watched a lot of Major League Baseball and knows the players on the team should like the Twins. And you are one of them. Podcast P, can you throw their lineup up again? Jack, I have a question for you. Who don't you like in the lineup? Who don't you like?
I'm not obsessed with Jeffers. I don't like Brooks Lee. I'll be honest with you. Brooks
okay,
Lee
but at 25 years old, could he take a little bit of a step and be an average hitter?
Sure, but he hasn't even come close to that over the last couple of years.
But if he's a 95 WRC plus guy, like the projections think he's going to be, he is the only guy in this lineup that is projected below a 100 WRC plus. Buxton, incredible.
I love
Bell
Buxton.
somehow still puts together okay seasons. Luke Keyshaw, I love him at second. Trevor Larnach, when he's healthy, he's like a 110 WRC plus bat. Victor Caratini looked great last year, and he's going to play DH for them. Royce Lewis, we know the drill. Are you healthy? Even if you are you playing well? Like, so much top-end talent. He could bottom out. I understand if you don't love Royce Lewis, but I know all of us as baseball fans know what the peak looks like. Matt Wallner hits taters. And Ryan Jeffers, solid catcher. And Brooks Lee. That's your team. And the reason, again, I'm high on them is I don't think they're going to win 90 games. I'm just saying, for a team that had a fire sale and has had all this nonsense come out of their front office, and everyone has just thrown them aside, I want to tell all of those fans, look at the team and tell me you don't like it. And I haven't come across anyone who's really looked at the lineup and said, oh, wait, it's actually not that bad. And that's the point. That's the point I'm making.
It's not that bad of a lineup. It's just a pretty uninspiring lineup because outside of Buxton, I have no faith in a lot of people. I have faith in Keyshaw, but Royce Lewis, I totally hear what you're selling. I'm in on you selling all of this, but I'm out. Like, he hasn't played. It's not fun. That experience stinks. As a baseball fan that likes watching a good Royce Lewis, we've been so deprived of good Royce Lewis that I'm kind of done being invested in that. Wallner frustrates me. I understand the value in Matt Wallner. It's not a fun game for me to watch. The punch outs and then he hits a ball a billion miles an hour. I don't enjoy it, to be honest with you.
Like, I loved Arum's comp to Munetaka Murakami, where it could be 30 jacks, but he's probably going to strike out 32% of the time. He's also going to walk 11% of the time. And he's going to be a gross at bat, but then he hits the ball 115 miles an hour, and you think to yourself, oh, shit.
I'm not a huge fan. I will say a lot of the intrigue with this team is on the mound, if you don't mind me getting to the pitching staff now.
Okay. You see what I'm cooking up here? You said a lot of the intrigue is on the mound, and we already agreed. You just said you love the lineup.
I did not say I love the lineup.
You just said you're
not
obsessed
words
with the lineup?
I did not say that. I said it could be a little bit better than I think a lot of people would expect, including myself. But again, I like Keyshaw. I like Buxton. Everybody else, I'm okay. I don't know. It's like the, room temperature bread that the Italian restaurant brings you, where it's like, I've had way better bread, but I guess I'll eat it. That's my take on this lineup.
I think it's not a bad comparison. The bread looks good, though. It's like shiny. It's these bread rolls.
Sure.
But then you bite into it, you're like, this is yesterday's bread.
It's like, I'm okay, and I need a lot of butter on this. I wish I didn't need this much butter. Yeah, I wish I didn't need it. By the way, grade 1 hamstring strain for Walker Jenkins that he suffered on February 28th, I believe.
I'm not penciling him, he or Emmanuel Rodriguez, in my calculus at all.
Yeah, I get it. But this rotation is pretty darn interesting. Joe Ryan was dealing with a minor back thing, but Joe Ryan should probably be good. They take a serious hit with no Pablo Lopez, who is out. It sounds like Pablo Lopez got the internal brace, if I'm not mistaken. So he'll miss the year. It is a UCL injury. So fronting the rotation, likely going to be Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober. Simeon Woods Richardson here as well. Taj Bradley and Zebby Matthews are the two that really, really fascinate me. And then the bullpen, Taylor Rogers, they bring in on a free agent deal. Justin Topa is there. They brought in, leading into the 25 season, Cody Funderburg, Cole Sands. Anthony Banda was acquired via trade after he was DFA'd by the Dodgers. Andrew Chafin signed a minor league free agent deal. Chafin, I don't know why I said Chafin. And then Eric Orsi, they got this offseason as well. So the bullpen, so. I don't really care. Interesting pickup with Taylor Rogers and Banda, a whole bunch of lefties in that bullpen. But it's the 4 and 5 in that rotation, man. Taj and Zebby, who are you?
Podcast Pete, keep it up. Who don't you like out of this entire grouping? Name one.
God,
you take all of them.
But again, I've always had an issue with Simeon Woods Richardson, and he's out of options at this point.
Okay, then Mick Abel's taken his spot, and SWR, I've also been kind of out of him. You know who's been changing my mind? Everybody on the betting side of the Discord. Because they're saying to Peter, what are you talking about? Did you see the way he ended the year? And yeah, he did end the year strong, and you got to give him credit. But again, he's just another arm in the fire because they could elevate Mick Abel into his spot if he struggles, if Taj Bradley struggles, if Zebby Matthews struggles. But these guys are all 25 years old.
Yeah.
SWR probably has the worst stuff out of all of them, but likely has the best pitchability out of all of them. So they're all different, and they're all exciting arms, backed up by Bailey Ober, who I know had a down 2025. But in 2024, he was much better. I ain't giving up at 30 years old. And Joe Ryan has the ability to be an ace in Major League Baseball. So yes, they lose Pablo Lopez. Crazy enough, this rotation could handle that loss because they have so many irons in the fire.
The one that really hurts is the David Festa shoulder injury this spring. Last month, shoulder impingement for Festa. So we'll see how short the recovery timeline is for David Festa, but he was as intriguing as Zebby Matthews and Taj Bradley. I won't waste any time. I'll give you my duo of X Factors. I'm sorry I took both, but it's Taj and Zebby. That 4 and 5 young guys that both need to take a step forward. We've seen such good things from Taj Bradley, and then he faces a lineup the second time through. It's like, what happened, Taj? I need to see him develop into a high-level mid-rotation arm. Same with Zebby Matthews. He is a strike thrower at will. He is a zone pounder. Taj Bradley and Zebby Matthews do different things very, very well. They're both young. They both have an insane amount of ability sitting in their right arms. I just want to see them blossom this year. And it feels like a pretty darn stress-free environment for them to blossom. And that can make them way more frisky than I'm giving them credit for being right now.
My X factor is Mick Abel. For a lot of the same reasons that you said, right? He's been lighting up spring training. He was a top prospect traded from the Phillies in the Yohan Duran deal. I'm pretty sure it was that deal. Regardless, he's on the Minnesota Twins now, and he's looked great in spring training. But in reality, I think I just kind of picked anyone who I liked because in reality, the entire team is an X factor. And that's been my main argument this entire time is top end. This team can really do it. BetMGM had them as the odds-on favorite to win the American League Central last year. They're not stupid. Obviously, it didn't work out, but it's a lot of the same talent on the team. I know it's not perfect. I know Duran's gone. I know Griffin Jacks is gone. And unfortunately, Pablo Lopez is gone. But they've adjusted accordingly, and they've adjusted what I believe to be too far. Like this win total should not be at 73.5. I'll give out a future right now. I bet the over. Of course I did. I'm talking about the Twins all friggin' off season. Yeah. I think this team could win close to 80 games. Again, I'm not out here saying they're winning the division. I'm not out here even saying they finish 500. I'm saying 80 and 82. If a couple of things go right, I think is in their cards.
Their offseason did not signal that, but I can see the cookie crumbling that way. So I can see the vision. It's not a fun vision for me to look at, but I appreciate that it's fun for you.
It is fun for me. That's correct.
Last but not least, let's talk about the Chicago White Sox now. The Chicago White Sox last year finished in the cellar of the American League Central. Let me pull up their exact record last year. They were 60 and 102, heck of a lot better than 41 and 121 in 2025. The Chicago White Sox had a very active offseason. Will Venable is back as the manager. This is year 2 for him. They also made some changes in the pitching department and the hitting department. Derek Showman, they grabbed the assistant hitting coach from the Marlins to be their lead hitting coach on the south side of Chicago. But here's how they're going to line up. They have a fascinating catching trio here, and they'll probably use the DH spot to cycle through that. Kyle Teal, probably the better catcher right now over Edgar Caro, but 2 very young guys that can be in the lineup most days. Corey Lee, if they want to have a 3-catcher rotation happening in the big leagues. They signed Munetaka Murakami. He's going to play first base for them. Chase Meidroth likely going to play second. Colson Montgomery at short. Miguel Vargas, who had a semi-breakout year last year, is going to man the hot corner. And then the outfield, probably Benintendi, Austin Hayes, Brooks Baldwin, maybe Luis Angel Acuna in center. Everson Pereira could mix in as well. And then you've got Lenin Sosa, who sneaky put together I think 22 homer season last year, and nobody talked about Lenin Sosa. They've got other interesting pieces, like Braden Montgomery could be up before the end of the season. But this lineup is not good. Intriguing. I think intriguing is the right word.
It is intriguing. When I look at the roster, I think, wow, this infield could be wildly exciting and one of the better infields in the American League. And then I see the outfield and I say, that might be the worst outfield in baseball. Right? Because you have Austin Hayes, Andrew Benintendi, and Brooks Baldwin in the outfield. And then in the infield, it's Miguel Vargas at third, Colson Montgomery at short. Who's playing second base? I forget just off the top of my head. Chase Mydroth. First base, you have Munetaka Murakami. And a catcher, Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro. The difference between the infield and the outfield is drastic to me. And two guys on the infield that I'm really, really excited to see what we get in 2026 is Colson Montgomery and Munetaka Murakami. Both of those guys are the most bet players to hit 40-plus home runs on BetMGM. Both are over 10-1 odds. And I think that's White Sox fans rushing to the sports books and fans of other teams saying, these guys got a lot of pop. The problem is we have no idea if they're going to be able to replicate it, right? You look at the projection systems.
Yep.
Murakami, it's like a 30 home run threat. Montgomery, not as much. And I'm actually curious your thoughts on Colson Montgomery, because before you were Jackie McMarlin, you grew up a White Sox fan. You've seen a lot of Colson Montgomery, not only in the minor leagues and an early stint in the major leagues. Where are you at on him?
On Colson, I mean, he's got a ton of juice. I don't know, honestly. Like, I thought he was a third baseman based on everything that was happening. It seems like he's going to play short. But in terms of the power, it's undeniable. He hit 21 jacks in 71 games. And he's probably not replicating that, but that's kind of an undeniable number. You would think that you pivot and you look at this guy as a 25 homer threat. The question is probably like, are you a Neto type of 25 homer threat, or are you a legitimate Seager type of 30 homer threat, 35 homer threat? He's a big guy. He's a big-bodied shortstop, so everybody wants to naturally think Seager. But I think in terms of output offensively, it could be a little bit more Neto-ish for him without the stolen bases, obviously. Neto is super athletic. Montgomery is a little bit more stationary. I think that's the right way to put it. He didn't attempt a stolen base last year. So you don't see that dynamic athleticism. I think he could lean even further into the power, and he could turn into a 3 true outcome-ish shortstop, which isn't the end of the world. He hit 21 bombs in 71 games, but he also hit under 240. He could hit 230 with 30 jacks, and that's still a productive shortstop season if he is fielding his position at an average level.
Yeah, I guess my worry is a lot of his production comes from his ability to slug, because he doesn't walk that much. He's probably going to strike out at a 30% clip. The defense isn't particularly there. And we've had similar conversations about a guy like Gino Suarez, right, at this point, who signed that 1-year deal. And when a lot of your production is just, are you hitting home runs this year, in years that he doesn't? And if you look at the projection systems, they range around 23 to 27 home runs, which is certainly not what White Sox fans are looking for after hitting 21 in 70-ish games. So if he is a 220 hitter with 25 home runs and average defense and no speed, it's not necessarily the guy that you really want to build around. Yeah. Does that mean that's exactly what he does and the projection systems are always right? Of course not. Do I know what he's going to be? No, I have no idea.
Yeah, totally understand that, man. Let's get to the starting rotation right now. Starting rotation for the Chicago White Sox. Shane Smith, the All-Star last year in the Rule 5 draft pick. He is probably going to get the ball on opening day. Davis Martin, Sean Burke are there as well. Bring in Anthony Kay. Also bring in Eric Fetty on free agent deals. Kay from Japan. Eric Fetty had a brutal year last year with the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Braves, maybe a couple other teams. I don't remember. Sir Anthony Dominguez also signed a free agent deal. Sean Newcomb is there. They acquired Jordan Hicks in a trade with the Boston Red Sox. Jordan Leisure, Grant Taylor are legitimate back end of the ballgame options. Mike Vassell had a really good year as well, and then they take Jedison Paez in the Rule 5 draft. This bullpen went from being a brutal sight to look at last year. If we did this last year, we'd say that bullpen's the worst in baseball. This year, we're looking at What? This bullpen is like borderline good, like
Yeah.
okay to good at this point. So that bullpen, I guess, full on like line change is a really good thing to see. The rotation is interesting to me, and I have a deep cut X factor to give you, but I want your immediate assessment of the pitching staff as a whole.
I kind of don't care about the rotation.
Yeah.
And I don't think White Sox fans should either, because Shane Smith is hopefully a piece for the future. At least he looks like it. The rest of them, like, you want to believe that Sean Burke is. Davis Martin is 29 years old. Anthony Kay, who got over, I think, in the MPB, is 31. And then Eric Fetty. So again, White Sox fans are looking for pieces to bring them into 2027 and beyond. That is the point of this team. When I look at the rotation, I don't see that. When we go to the bullpen, though, and I set my eyes squarely on Grant Taylor, and I even texted, because I wasn't on the reliever episode, I said, please mention to everybody that I have Grant Taylor at number 11. This guy has stupid stuff. So if we all remember, I took the White Sox over 52.5 wins last year, and it was a sweat. Kind of. They did finish in the 60s, and it was such a fun bet. But every single time we were getting into the later innings, I was texting in our Discord, and I was saying, please, Grant Taylor, can you pitch again? Yeah. Because that was the guy that I trusted. Now, I know he threw to a 4.91 ERA, but he had a 34% strikeout rate and a 9% walk rate. 2.91 expected ERA. Sat 99 with the fastball last year. Got a ton of whiffs. And the curveball is a really good pitch as well. Now, he's still 23, but it's good to see that he posted a 51% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, 51% ground ball rate.
Yeah.
So you got the 35% K rate. You got the 50% ground ball. He's 23. He's a big body who throws gas.
Yeah.
Can he develop? That's the thing with relievers. You kind of got to attach to some things. And I view that with Taylor. I think Leisure is also a really good reliever. Like, in the bullpen, I'm much more interested to watch than their starters. And I don't even think White Sox fans care that much about their starters either.
I think they will at some point this year. And I think that's probably post All-Star break. And the reason being, Drew Thorpe could be back. You could figure out what you have in Thorpe. Hagen Smith, if he starts throwing strikes, could be up. And one of my X factors could be up as well. But before we get to my guy, I do have two. I have a minor league X factor and a big league X factor. Who is your big league X factor for the White Sox?
Munetaka Murakami.
Yeah.
There's a lot of range of outcomes here. Because, you know, if you're bullish on Murakami, you think that the contact rates are not going to be unplayable and that 80 grade raw power will start to show, which means, yeah, he probably strikes out 30% of the time, probably also walks 12%, and he can hit you 35 jacks. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't make enough contact to even stick in the White Sox lineup. Those are two different things, completely different. What do we get? I'm starting to lean more towards the bullish side, which is why I'm really excited to watch him. And again, I'm also excited to watch him in the World Baseball Classic too. Yeah. Because again, if he could just limit the whiff a little bit, right? Still strike out 30% of the time. Sure. 3 out of every 10 at-bats, end them in a strikeout. Sure. But if you're hitting the ball that hard, that consistently, you're going to find success, but it's about hitting the ball. You know what I mean? So that's why it's Murakami for me.
So Murakami 5 for 13 so far this spring in 4 games, 2 driven in. It's a 923 OPS in 4 games. So it's not really worth citing that, but some of the EVs that he's produced, he has an 108 mile an hour single against Connor Schultz. He also has an 106 mile an hour double against Porter Hodge. I think that was the one that got over Seiya Suzuki's head. But he has also punched out 4 times already in 13 plate appearances. So something to keep tabs on without a doubt. Murakami was my big league X factor. But when I said the rotation could get a bit more intriguing around the All-Star break, in large part it has to do with Noah Schultz, the left-hander. Oh, yeah. Noah Schultz is 6'10". Noah Schultz has been a guy settling into the upper minors longer than Hagen Smith, I think, has been in the organization. He was not babied. I don't think that's the right way to put it. He was protected in Birmingham in 2024. and he was one of the best pitching prospects in the game after a protected season in Double-A. Noah Schultz in Double and Triple-A last year had a pretty darn disappointing season. Now he's a non-roster invite this year to big league camp. Noah Schultz last year in 73 minor league innings had a 4.68 ERA. Year before that in 24, he had a 2.24 ERA and 88 and a third. Can he get back to being one of, if not the best left-handed pitching prospects in all of minor league baseball? If that is the case, there are very few bullets left for him to waste in the minor leagues, and he will pitch for the Chicago White Sox. And he is going to become the pitcher that you turn on your TV and watch. That 24 season was horrible for White Sox fans. Again, 41 and 121. But when they got Drew Thorpe up to the big leagues, White Sox fans tuned in for Thorpe. This year, they'll tune in for Schultz, or they'll tune in for Hagen Smith. Davis Martin is fun. He may not bring eyeballs to the television set quite like Noah Schultz. So I think in terms of watchability in the rotation and just overall success, Schultz is the guy. And our Elijah Evans said he's breaking out an adjusted changeup. If Noah Schultz can add that changeup to go along with the sinker, go along with the slider, this guy can get closer to achieving his down the line possible front line upside.
I agree with you. The White Sox have been able to produce Chris Sale, then Garrett Crochet is either Hagen Smith or Noah Schultz. The next version of that, we will see.
It's a great question. I want to wrap the show with my WBC bracket because it's going to be you and Aram on the WBC episode tomorrow. We're going to do the American League East tomorrow, and then you guys are also going to give your quick WBC pool play winners and overall winner. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to go through the math of the bracket of like, oh, if this team wins Pool A, then they'll be matched up with the runner-up of Pool D. I'm going to tell you the two teams that I think will get out of each pool and who I think the overall winner of the Classic will be. So Pool A is in, why do I have the 23 WBC up? No, I need the 26 WBC up. Come on. That's silly. Sorry, guys. 2026 WBC bracket. The 26 WBC bracket. Okay. Pool A is the one in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And that's going to be Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada, Panama, and Colombia. Canada is going to get out, I think. They have a ton of big leaguers. Puerto Rico has been killed by the insurance companies, obviously. Puerto Rico still has Arenado and plenty of other big leaguers. Give me Puerto Rico and Canada getting out of that WBC Pool A. Pool B, U.S., Mexico, Italy, Great Britain, and Brazil. Mexico was the darling of the 2023 World Baseball Classic, but Italy is loaded with big leaguers. I've got Italy upsetting Mexico and getting out of the pool along with the U.S. That pool is going to be in Houston, Texas, and Italy does get to the quarterfinal round of the WBC. In Pool C, it's Japan, Australia, Korea, Czechia, which is the Czech Republic, but I guess they're going by Czechia, and then Chinese Taipei. You said what, Taipei over Australia or Australia over Taipei tonight?
I had Taipei over Australia.
I go Japan and Chinese Taipei getting out of there. I thought the Korean roster looked a little thinner than it did in 2023, and I feel like there were enough okay teams in this pool to cause them some fits. Like Australia's just good enough to beat them. Chinese Taipei is just good enough to beat them. Japan is obviously a unit. They'll get out, they'll win it, but I think Chinese Taipei is the other team to get out of it. In Pool D, Venezuela, the Dominican, the Netherlands, Israel, Nicaragua. Venezuela and the Dominican are absolute freight trains. And the Dominican, that's my pick to win the whole darn thing. That lineup is unbelievable. And they turned, I think they played at Juan Marichal in Santo Domingo on Tuesday and Wednesday. They turned that place into a movie. I cannot wait to see the Dominican fan base at Lone Depot Park in Miami all the way home. Their pool's in Miami. Venezuela is going to have a great showing. If Puerto Rico gets there, Puerto Rico is going to have a great showing. The U.S. is going to have a great showing. Japan is going to have a great showing. But nothing's going to match the energy of a baseball game at Lone Depot featuring the Dominican Republic this year. So the DR is my pick to win the whole darn thing.
Love it. I'll give you guys my bracket tomorrow.
I love it. And that is our program. Take us out.
Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. The best way to support is by liking and subscribing if you're watching us live here on YouTube, and if you're listening to us after the fact, Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your shows. Make sure to leave a 5-star review. Reviews around this time of the year are very, very appreciative, or we're very appreciative of those reviews. If you want to join the best baseball group chat in the world, you can find the link in the episode description, as well as go get your Just Baseball merch. You know, I'm rocking the hat. Go get yours in the episode. The link is in the episode description. For Jack McMullen, I'm Peter Apple and Podcast Pete. Don't forget about Podcast Pete producing the hell out of this thing. Thank you, Peyton. And with that, thank you, everybody.